Hey everyone, and welcome to Sasquatch Theory. In this documentary interview, we have Chuck from South Carolina. He is a local in the area and has hunted this forest for many years now and is well experienced at what he does. Chuck had an encounter years ago off of Highway 11 in South Carolina, and still to this day he wonders about this encounter and what it possibly could have been. Chuck was approached by several creatures one night on some private property, and he knows without a doubt it was not human or any known animal in the area. David Politis covered a story about a missing person named Jason Knapp that went missing at Table Rock State Park in 1998, and he was never seen again. This is a vast area with a lot of forest. Chuck wanted to meet at Jocassee Lake because he believes this could be an area where the cryptids are living at. Chuck found some Bigfoot structures years ago, and we're going back to see if we can possibly find more clues. There have been a lot of past Bigfoot reports that have come out of the Carolinas, Tennessee, Georgia, and even down in Florida. I can certainly see why Chuck believes the Sasquatch would be hanging out in this area, as there is a lot of food, water, and cover. The lake is stocked with trout, and there's a lot of species of fish within its waters, and there is also a nuclear power plant on the lake. If you believe you have had a Bigfoot encounter in this area, feel free to contact me at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com, and if you guys can, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. So Chuck, if you would, tell me about your first experience, your first encounter that you had, and give me as much detail as possible. What were you doing that day? Where were you at?
Okay, well, it was down on Saluda River place. We never had hunted it. It was a hangout, but this old gravel road, it just goes into runs down to the river and had a fire pit and all. But we turned coon dogs loose right there that night. And they struck. They probably went a couple of miles up the river and across the river. Well, you can't get across the river, so we ended up way back there where they were. The man I was with, Ray, he said he was going to go back, get the Jeep, and for me to stay there when the dogs came back. And so, I mean, I didn't think nothing about it. Woods at night didn't bother me back then. And where we were at was an old man had a barn and an old road with a gate that come in from a paved road that come back to the river, and he had a fence where he had some it run all the way to the swamp, and you had the river run down one side, and he had some cows in there, and there was an old fence running along with old growed up road. He had it come back in there, so I was standing there at the fence line, and it probably wasn't 20 minutes, right, he got gone, and I heard something make a noise. It was like, and I've tried, like I told you earlier, I can't mimic it. It sounds almost like something deep from your throat. It's a sort of sound, but it wasn't a snort. It was more like almost like harking sound. And if you've ever seen the old flashlights, you screw the lens off and drop the big square battery in. It's got the springs on the ends of it, 6-volt battery. That's what I had. And it puts out a wide beam, but it don't put out a bright, intense beam, plus it's about half dead. So I shine my light out there, and I could see I shine. And it wasn't 40, 60 foot at the most standing in front of me out in that growed up cow pasture. Wasn't no monster, it's about 6 foot, a little more than eye level with me, but it was upright. And I could make out just a dark silhouette. I couldn't make out nothing, but I could see the perfect gold and amber eyes. They were a goldish, yellowish gold color. And still wasn't spooked. I didn't know what it was at first, and then still didn't know what it was, but I kept my light on, and it kept making that noise, and it would show me its teeth. And the reason I know is all I could see was eyes, but then when it would show its teeth, I could see the white, just perfect. And so I'm gonna say it went on 5 or 6 minutes, and a few minutes, all of a sudden there was that sound again, about 40 foot to that one's. It would be that one's left, my right, and there was another one standing over there, same yellow eyes, making the same noise, about the same height. And I was getting pretty shook up by then. My legs turning to rubber, and I was, I had a single shot 22 rifle, and I was a freshman in high school, and I didn't know what to do. So finally, the dogs came back, and they didn't act like coon dogs. They sat down beside me. They didn't want no part of whatever it was. They just didn't do nothing. That's what was weird. I didn't even have to put the leads back on them. They just stayed right beside me. And so I got the bright idea I was going to shoot it. So I shot, you could hear the 22 smack it. And its eyes went out for a second, and then they come on, and it's almost like you could see hate in its eyes and it let out the awful shriek then. But it still didn't approach me. It didn't move. And by then, I was hyperventilating, I'd say. But there was a little old holly tree. I laugh about it today because it wasn't 6 foot off the ground, but for some reason I thought that was going to be safety, and I climbed up a holly tree and got scratched all to pieces just to get off the ground. And I lost time because I'm going to say it went on 15 minutes. You got to remember, this was 48, 49 years ago. So all of a sudden, I didn't hear them run off, but I heard them when they hit the water in the swamp. And I heard, the sloshing. And then I realized I could see the trees lighting up it was Ray coming down through there with the Jeep. Couldn't see his headlights, but I could see the trees lighting up, coming way on up that old road. And when they got to the other side of the swamp, which didn't take them long at all, they probably went 300 or 400 yards in just a few seconds. And they let out the awfulest scream, and it sounded just like a woman being murdered or something. Terrified, but it was so amplified, it just echoed. And Ray pulled up, and he didn't. I about hugged his head, broke his neck, because I was so glad to see him. And same old thing. All you seen one of Mr. What's his name's cows, I don't remember the man's name, but or you seen a deer, I heard everything. I said, nope, ain't no deer, mate. And the cow don't run through the swamp that fast. And but the word got around at school the next day, because it was on a school night. Somebody come up with the name Wayne Doodle, because we didn't know, nobody ever thought, I didn't even think about Bigfoot or no other cryptid at the time. I just know I seen something that didn't make no sense. And, that's pretty much it. I don't remember being scared to go back in the woods. I kind of got over it, I guess because I didn't know what it was, Mm-hmm. But now that I see things and hear other people's encounters now, I'm pretty sure I know what I was dealing with that night. And I've had other things happen. I've lived a deer hunt and fish all my life, and I've been several times. I've had things walk, coming out of the woods after dark at night. I've had things walk beside me. I could hear them, but I couldn't see them. And then I had one time I was hunting, and it just was getting daylight, and I could hear something walking under my tree stand. But I couldn't, it was just like if you walked under me, I could hear your footsteps and everything, but I couldn't see it. I about fell out of the tree bending over trying to see what was walking up under my tree stand. Never did see it.
So it sounded bipedal?
Oh yeah, definitely. I thought it was another hunter or somebody, I was already getting mad. I was like, son of a gun, here they come, right at daylight. And never did see them. And then there was another time when I heard the barred owl sound. I don't know that it was a barred owl, because I've never heard a barred owl this loud. It sounded like something at a rock concert. It was so amplified, but it was trying to sound like a barred owl. And it was, that was one evening right at dusk dark. And there's been several times that I can recall being paralleled in that one area that I hunted, that I would come out of my tree in the evening after dark, and something walking just out of sight, and if I'd stop, it would stop. I mean, I had that happen more than twice, I'd say. My hunting partner would be back at the truck because we rode four-wheelers in. He's getting concerned because I'd be so late getting out. I said, man, whatever that was there again this week, following me out of the woods. I said, I don't know what it is. I thought, maybe it's hogs, but I knew better. I knew something like that. They don't follow you out of the woods. If anything, they're going the other way. And, but that night on the swamp, coon hunting, that was one night I about lost it. I mean, that was, especially when the second one, made that noise, and I had two of them standing in front of me. But luckily they did not, even after I put a 22 bullet in one of them, it didn't. And I mean, I hit it. You could hear, how you can hear a 22 smack and then hear the shot. I mean, I heard it playing. It wasn't, if I'd have missed it, it was hard to miss because I almost touched it with the barrel of the gun. But all it done is made it mad. You could tell by the way it kept making the same noise, but after I shot it, it made it in a different way. I can't explain, but it was like, how dare you, And that's when I went up the tree, I think, if I remember right. Like I say, 49 years, I'm trying to get all the facts right, and I want it to be accurate, but.
Yeah. How big were these creatures?
I'd say 6. They were, standing out in front of me. They were pretty much eye level, and it was a flat pasture. They were about, anywhere from 5.5 to 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
And they could have been taller if it was a little downhill. But what I think, it might have been 2 juveniles or something. Thought they were going to have some fun. But
yeah. And their eyes illuminated whenever your flashlight hit them?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I just didn't have bright enough light to illuminate them where I could make out 100%. I could just illuminate the eyes. And I know, we've seen deer all the time going coon hunting and everything. They're known for green eyes, bluish green eyes. And these had yellow gold eyes. I mean, almost like an ember in a fire. Not an orange, but when it gets real dull yellow looking, that's what they look like. And
you said you could see their teeth?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'd see it go away, and then I'd see the white. And I'd see it go away, and I'd see the white. Like he was showing them to me.
Okay.
And best way I always explain it was a movie star smile. Like he would just show me the big old white teeth. I couldn't tell if they were pointed, square. I could just see white go away, and then I'd see white come back. White go away, white come back, right under his eyes. And, but only time I can ever think I've been scared in the woods at night, and it scared me to death. It terrified me.
Yeah, what did the scream sound like after you shot him?
It was the same sound, but it was a lot more, I guess, pissed off,
Yeah.
for lack of better words.
Kind of like a gurgling sound?
Yeah, almost like harking up a loogie. I mean, that's that's the best I can explain it. And the other one made the same sound. It's more like a, but it would. I don't even think that's close. I've tried to make it and I can't.
Just something really unique.
Yeah, it was different.
Yeah.
And I've never heard anybody say, watching all the other Bigfoot shows and other encounters, I've never heard nobody talk about that one sound that I heard. But when they got on the other side of that scream, I have heard about other people about that. And that's the one I'll never forget. And I was, if that had happened and Ray hadn't been coming down the road, I don't know what I'd done. Because when they let that scream out, the headlights were coming. So if it had happened before and it was just me and them, it would have been, I'd probably had to come apart.
How far out in the woods were you?
Oh, I was probably there's a little 2-lane paved road that comes in there off of, it's probably 3/4 of a mile off of it back in there.
Yeah.
And then you've got the river running down this side, and then there's a lake, swamp. I mean, it's one like frog gigging. A lot of people frog gigging on. There's lake after lake back through them woods, and it's just the backs of them are just swamp. And I heard them when they hit it, and when they, at night I was looking across that ridge, and I could see the tree line and the skyline, and that scream and it echoing across the top of that skyline. It was super, super, super eerie.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Oh, it was, a lot. If I'd have known what it was, I might have stayed out of the woods for a long time. But I'm lucky I didn't know it. We didn't have what we have nowadays, so I didn't know what it was. I heard everything from, that old man seen panthers down there and all this. You hear that, but this wasn't no panther. This was too tall, too upright, and I heard when it hit the swamp, it sounded even bipedal. It didn't sound. I mean, I hear coon dogs sloshing through water all the time. I know what 4 legs sounds like versus 2.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, I heard it. I didn't hear this one run off. In fact, I don't even remember checking to see if it did go off. But I know I heard one hit the swamp. And
the coon dogs were acting different?
Yeah, I mean, usually a coon dog, you got to put him on a leader. He's going back, especially with a river and a lake right there. These ain't no slouch coon dogs. They come back real, just quite, almost with their tail between their legs, just like, hey, we won't hang right here with you. And they, the oldest dog, she was about a $3,000 dog. She sat down right against my leg and just sat there. I don't even think I ever put a lead on because I didn't want to take my eyes off of these things to fool with the dogs.
Yeah.
And luckily the one young dog come and he stayed because they stayed, I guess. But usually they going back hunting with all that water around until there's going to be coons somewhere. They don't quit. And but that night they sit right there. They didn't whine, they didn't act scared, but they didn't go anywhere. And that's the strange part. And I've had them do that with coyotes before. When if a big pack of coyotes outnumber them, I've had them come back to the truck and not want to hunt. But that's the only time I've seen them do something like that.
Okay. What else can you think of? Any other strange experiences that you've had out in the woods?
Other than light, I mean, I was talking about, I've been sitting in a tree I used to get in the woods all bad about getting in way too early. And I was sitting there and had, just all of a sudden the woods turned daylight, just for a second, almost like a camera flash. And go back, there only been another 30 minutes to get started cracking daylight. But I've had it just, the woods light up for no reason. But mostly the footsteps with nothing to go with it was the most weirdest thing, because I was fixing to start screaming at a hunter for coming through the woods right at daylight walking, but there wasn't nobody there.
Mm-hmm. Whenever I was in Alaska, there was a guy salmon fishing where we were camping at, and me and Fred asked him, have you ever seen or heard anything strange out here? He started telling us stories. He's like, I got a friend that experienced this. We think it was him, but he was talking about driving at nighttime. It was pitch black, and all of a sudden it'd be daylight, and then it'd go back to darkness.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
Almost like lightning, but it wasn't lightning. I mean, it was, late November, 27 degrees, and not a cloud in the sky that morning. Mm-hmm. And it was still nighttime, and just be sitting there and all of a sudden the woods just light and go back dark.
Yeah. And how long would it be daylight for?
It's just almost like a flash of lightning. I mean, a flash from a camera. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there wasn't no camera, and I'm out in the middle of a pine ridge, and nothing around for miles.
Yeah. That is pretty strange.
Yeah. And
so what's your theory about the Sasquatch? Where do you think they came from? What are they?
I think they're doing their own thing, made by God for a purpose. I think they're here for the time of tribulation, and I don't think they're a cross between I think they might have human DNA, but they're not. They're not made from this and this. I think God created them, and there's a reason for it. We just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's something strange going on with this whole phenomenon. I don't think it can be as simple as a lost primate or Gigantopithecus. I think there's more to it, and I've had a lot of strange experiences and encounters with them. And even Scott Carpenter, when he was alive, he said they'll follow you home, and that happened to me before I ever even listened to Scott Carpenter.
Oh, we about forgot the most thing, the orbs in my backyard now.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
We've got a camera watching our chicken pen, and we've been having, they just started showing up in May. The first ones were rods. They setting off our cameras, and they're like, they were like rods of light shooting by, but behind them were a bunch of little bitty lights. And then, 2 weeks ago I talked to you, and I called you late that night. I said, man, we had orbs on our camera again, and these were about that, between a soccer ball and a softball, and they actually activated the camera. I've got them saved. I've got them saved on my camera.
Yeah.
And they're whatever they are, they're dense enough to set off a camera, and it floats around. It started coming toward the camera and went by it. Now, I haven't had any more since. Oh, I didn't tell you about this. The same night we got looking at our camera on the front of the house, there was multiple, probably 20 of them, all around our front porch. And they were all perfectly round. They just going everywhere.
Yeah, that's strange.
And it just, all of a sudden, they showed up.
Yeah. So what brought you out here to Joe Cassie? Why, other than us talking about Bigfoot and hanging out, why do you think this is such a good area? You said you found an X years ago?
Found an X 6 years ago. Didn't even know I found an X. I took a picture and it was in it. And I got looking, there was other stuff behind it. It looked like structures. And back in the 80s when we used to come up here and stay at night and hunt, we'd hear things, howls and screams that we couldn't explain up on the top of the mountains. Yeah. Look at this place. It's so, it's miles and miles and miles and nothing but rough, straight up and down terrain with rivers, and it's got everything they need. Mm-hmm. So, and there's nothing between here and North Carolina, and then you go right on into Tennessee. You can follow these rivers right on that feed this lake.
Yeah, when we hiked this area, it was pretty rugged.
It's non-forgiving.
Yeah, it's something else, that's for sure.
It's you got to have some mountain goat in you to be around here if you hike around here a lot.
Yeah. Kept thinking I was hearing noises up in there.
I kept looking up there, back this way. I kept hearing something.
Yeah. It's wild how you can walk all over the country looking for these things, and all of a sudden you'll be sitting in one spot and you can hear popping noises and strange.
It's when you're not looking for them.
Yeah, it's when you're not looking for them. They'll find you.
Well, I think we're their favorite pastime. I think they get a kick out of watching us, and we don't even know it.
Yeah, and it's so thick in North and South Carolina, you can't even see in the woods. And like I told you, even in January, February, in the middle of winter, it's so thick and it's still green that you can't see in the woods. You can't see 10 feet in front of you.
The mountain law never turns. It stays like that year round.
Yeah.
It's just, it never thins out. Now the hardwood trees, they'll drop their leaves and you can see through some of the ridges. Mm-hmm. But below that, you're not going to see, the ground canopy, because it's got that canopy of mountain laurel, anywhere from 5, 6 foot. That laurel's got everything blocked in.
Yeah.
But it does thin out, but it's still, walking wise, it don't get no easier. Yeah. It's like we did today. You get lucky, you can find a creek, you can go a little ways. And I think you've seen we got hogs
Yeah, there's a lot of hog sign here. And I was reading report after report of cryptid activity all around this area, all through Highway 11, the Appalachian Mountains. And
I see.
it's never ending. There's a ton of missing people reports as well.
You can go right up here, just a couple of mountains over, and you're on the Appalachian Trail.
Mm-hmm.
So the Foothills Trail goes through here. That's 60-something miles right there. It goes all the way from Caesar's Head, I think, to Georgia. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of woods through here, a lot of untouched woods. I mean, you'd have to be crazy to try to walk some of these places.
Yeah. There's a lot of hunters that say they've been out in the woods 40 years plus and they never seen anything or heard anything strange. But I don't think you're a real hunter if you can't track down a Sasquatch.
Yeah. Well, I ain't no hunter then. I think people say go fry some bacon's got the best idea.
Right. Fry some bacon.
Play a guitar and let them come to you.
Yeah. Bring little kids with you. All kinds of things. There's all sorts of theories. Play Native American sounds. I mean, people have all kinds of theories as to what could bring them out, but I think Sasquatch is going to do what it wants to do. That night when you had the encounter with the coon dogs, do you think it was a Bigfoot or do you think it was a dog man?
I'm still wrestling with the dog man thing, but I started thinking Bigfoot after I started learning about Bigfoot. And then I'm open because I don't know. I couldn't make out enough of it. All I could see was the glowing eyes and the teeth. Mm-hmm. And I've thought through it 100 times in my head, but the way the teeth were, I don't think a dog man who's got a snout, I don't think I was looking at that.
Yeah.
I think I was looking at more of a straight line of white, but it's hard to say.
Did you ever return to that area?
No.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I mean, not because I didn't want to, it was really the old man that owned it. Luckily, Ray knew him, and our dogs got there. We wasn't hunting that land. The dogs just ended up over there. Mm-hmm. Man don't live there. In fact, I think he's probably dead now because he was in his 70s then. That was in the 80s. I mean, 70s. So, I'm sure his family. I went by there the other week, and there's a gate, old growed up gate. I mean, it's growed up big time. So, all of it's a lot of posted where we used to stomp around and run free. Now it's posted, but it's still thick and ain't changed. Yeah. I looked at it on Google Earth and it's still, I don't doubt it's just one of them places that has that extreme strangeness, you know. It never did feel right, even in them days when we didn't know no better. We knew it just wasn't, it was known as a place, it was just bad.
Yeah, just something felt off.
Yeah, always something bad happening there.
Chuck, I really want to thank you for being a guest on the channel and for the time that you put into this video. It really means a lot to me. I also want to thank the people that were involved and supported me in the creation of this video, so that really means a lot to me. Also, I want to give a special thanks to the viewers who took the time to watch this video, and without you guys, none of this would be possible, so I really appreciate that. South Carolina is an overlooked state when it comes to cryptid activity, and there is a lot going on there, and people don't really think about it. A lot of times they think of the Pacific Northwest, you know, California, Washington, and Oregon when it comes to Bigfoot activity, but honestly, there's a lot of stuff going on in the states that you don't hear about or think about. Unfortunately, the Carolinas and many other states are being bombarded by people who are moving out of areas like California and New York to get away from the chaos, and it's quickly becoming very populated, and I wonder how this will change the terrain in the future. I'm sure a lot of the forest will soon disappear, but that's a long ways from now because there's a lot of forest out there, and we will see how this changes the activity in the future. Anyways, I appreciate everyone for watching, and if you guys can, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you have a Bigfoot encounter that you would like to report to me here on Sasquatch Theory, please contact me at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. Until the next one, take care everyone, and God bless.